about kinematics in one dimension part 2. This is the continuation of our previous topic on kinematics in one dimension, which focuses on distance and displacement. So today we are going to talk about speed and velocity. Okay, so to start with, we define speed with the following formula, that's v equal to distance traveled over elapsed time. So basically, your speed is the rate at which an object is moving. So it's given with the formula v equal to d over t. Okay, v is your distance and then t is your time. So speed is similar as your distance. It does not depend on direction. So basically, your speed is a scalar quantity which do not need a direction. Okay, so magnitude lang siya. Okay, so I have here a car traveling 100-meter distance and then in 5 seconds. So we are going to determine the speed of the car. You just divide 100 meters divided by 5 seconds. You will get 20 meter per second. So take note that your unit or your SI unit for speed is in this form. You have meter per second. So it could vary depending on the given unit for your distance and then the given unit for your time. So it could be mile per hour, miles per hour, meter per hour, or kilometer per hour, and etc. Okay, so instantaneous speed. So this is the speed determined for very short time interval. So this is the same with your general formula for speed, but your time is for a very short time lang. Okay, so at an instant, your speed at an instant. So let's see here in your animation. I have here an animation. You can see here a car traveling 5 miles in 0.2 hours. Okay, so your average speed or your speed is 5 miles divided by 0.2 hours. So you will get 25 miles per hour. Okay, now what about your instantaneous speed? Okay, so here, let's say your car stopped at the stop sign. So your instantaneous speed at that point is 0. Also the same with the one where the car stopped at the traffic light. Your instantaneous speed is also 0. So depende kung saan mo gustong i-determine yung instantaneous velocity is where your car distance and the time at that point, yun yung instantaneous speed na tinatawag natin. Okay, unlike for the average speed or your general definition for speed, that's the total distance and then your total elapsed time. Okay, now how do we graph speed? I have here an example of a graph or a general perception in graphing the speed. You have your distance as your y-axis and then your time as your x-axis. So if your speed is increasing, basically your line goes up, okay, in diagonal direction, and then when your object is stopped, you have your straight line. Okay, it means that the object is still, okay, or staying at a certain position. Okay, and then when it starts to move again, so you have a different speed or another speed. Okay, and yes, the steepness of a line is called the slope. Okay, so in your previous math, you have here your slope could be determined by the rise over run. Okay, so the steeper the slope is, the greater the speed. So a constant slope represents motion at constant speed. So how? We have here an example. So in this graph, you can see here a run. Your rise is equivalent to 400 meters at the shaft, the blue line or the blue arrow going up. And then your run is the red arrow, that's 2 minutes. So 6 minus 4, that's 2 minutes. And then 1,200 minus 800, that's 400 meters. So you just divide your rise and run. You will get 200 meters per minute. So that is now your slope, at the same time your speed. Okay, so this is an application of your slope sa previous math ninyo. So you can apply it in determining speed. Okay, kapag meron tayong graph. Okay, now how do we calculate speed? So another way in calculating speed, you can draw a triangle and then you write your formula or your formula for speed. You have your time, distance, and then your speed. So if you're looking for time, kapag yung time ang hinahanap sa problem, you just cover the time. So you will be left with distance and speed. So you just divide distance divided by speed, you will get your time. Kapag speed naman yung hinahanap, you cover the speed, so you will be left with distance and time. So you just divide distance divided by time, you will get your speed. And then if you're looking for distance, so you cover the distance, you will be left with time and speed. And then you can observe here, time and speed is side by side lang siya. Okay, or aligned sila with each other. So you just multiply, you have distance equal to time times speed. Okay, so that is how you calculate speed. Okay, so an example, a rocket is traveling at 10 meters per second. How long does it take for the rocket to travel 30 meters? So in this case, you are looking for the time. So yung formula natin for time, that is distance over speed. So you just divide 30 meters divided by time, your 10 meter per second, so you will get 3 seconds. Okay, so yun yung time na tinake na your rocket to travel 30 meters with a speed of 10 meters per second. So 3 seconds. Okay, another example, a race car is traveling at 85 meters per second. How far does the car travel in 30 seconds? So in this case, you are going to determine your distance. So all you have to do is to multiply your speed, that's 85, times your time, that's 30 seconds. So you will get 2,550 meters. Okay, so that is the total distance traveled by the car. Okay, now what about velocity? Velocity is a description of an object's speed and direction. So in this case, si velocity naman is a vector quantity. Okay, so that's where you have your magnitude and direction. Also, your velocity is denoted as a bold-faced small letter v. Okay, it is equivalent to displacement over time. So si speed, that's distance over time. Si velocity naman, displacement over time. Okay, so it is the rate of change of position. Velocity is a vector quantity. It has magnitude and direction. And also, your unit is meter per second or length over time. So the same lang sila ng unit ni speed. The only difference is your velocity has direction. Okay, so also we have here a general formula for the following quantities. Your average velocity, that's delta x, or change in your position divided by delta t, or your elapsed time. So that's just your final position minus your initial position, which is equivalent to your displacement, and then your average speed, that's your total distance over elapsed time. Okay, and then your instantaneous velocity, this is your velocity at an instant, so it's given with dx over dt. So this is actually your differential equation on the derivatives. So derivative lang siya ni average velocity, that is now your instantaneous velocity. Okay, so yes, distance and speed. Okay, so speed and velocity. What's the similarity? Both are measuring how fast an object is moving, and then the difference is sa velocity, meron direction, sa speed, wala, and then is velocity more like distance or displacement, and why? So velocity is basically the same with your displacement because it includes direction. Okay, so here you have an ant. Okay, so that's speed versus velocity. Okay, so makikita natin dito yung difference in speed and velocity. For example, your ant is moving. Okay, so in 5 centimeters, it took the ant 3 seconds and then it went back. And then the total time traveled by the ant is 5 seconds. And then your total distance traveled is 7 centimeters. Okay, kita nyo dyan. This is 5 and then it went back 2 centimeters. So you just add, that's a total of 7 centimeters. And then the displacement is positive 3 centimeter. How? You have your final position is at positive 3, and then your initial position is at 0, so you subtract positive 3 minus 0, you will get positive 3 centimeter. Okay, and then to determine your speed, you divide distance traveled divided by 5 seconds. You have 1.4 centimeter per second. And then for the velocity, you will use your displacement, that's positive 3 centimeter divided by 5 seconds, so you will get positive 0.6 centimeter per second. So, yung positive dito, it is enough to determine your direction. So that's the difference. You have here your speed, and then you have here your velocity. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you, everyone. God bless and excel at all times. So I will upload a separate video for word problems involving speed and velocity. So those are example problems. So meron doon mga solving for speed and velocity. So that's all for today. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so today we are going to have different examples on word problems involving speed and velocity. So for the first example, we have here, a man walks 7 kilometers in 2 hours and 2 kilometers in 1 hour in the same direction. So for the first question, we have what is the man's average speed? And then for the second one, we have what is the man's average velocity for the whole journey? Okay, so to start with, we will first draw the man's journey. So here I assume that the man is going to the east. So pwede kayo mag-assume ng kahit anong direction since walang naka-indicate sa problem. So here I just assume na nasa east siya. And then it went also 2 kilometers going to the same direction. So here another vector, this is 2 km, and then it's 1 hour. It took him 1 hour. So, yes. Now, how to solve your speed? We'll start with your formula. Okay, for letter A, your speed is V equal to your distance over time. Okay, or the time it took for the man to walk his whole journey. So we have here 7 kilometers plus 2 kilometers over 2 hours plus 1 hour. You will have 9 km over 3h. Okay, and then you divide 9 divided by 3, you will get 3 kilometers per hour. Okay, so this is now your speed. Now, what about your velocity? Okay, so for velocity, I will write it as letter B, but with an arrow above. Okay, and then this is equivalent to your displacement over time. Okay, now for the displacement, you will now consider the sign of the given. You have positive 7 kilometer plus your positive 2 kilometer divided by 2h plus 1 hour. Okay, so you will get positive 9 km over 3 hours or 3 hours, and then for your final answer you will have positive 3 kilometer per hour. So in this case, you have here your positive sign. So it is important that in determining your velocity, you have your direction. So we have here your positive sign, which represents the direction of our velocity. Okay. Okay, now for the second example, we have here a man walks 7 kilometers east in 2 hours and then 2.5 kilometers west in 1 hour. So what is the man's average speed and what is the man's average velocity for the whole journey? Okay, so we'll start with illustrating the problem. So you have here 7 kilometers, okay, going to the east. And then it took him 2 hours. And then he went 2.5 kilometers going to the west in 1 hour. So this is going to the west. This is 2.5 kilometers west. And then it took him an hour. So you can see here in the figure the man's journey. Okay, so to solve for your speed, okay, again, your formula is d over time. So you just add, okay, you have 7 km plus 2.5 km, okay, over 2 hours plus 1 hour. Okay. So you will get 9.5 kilometers over 3 hours. I'm sorry, your R is H lang siya. So letter H lang siya. Sorry for that. And then, dividing the two, you will get 3.2 kilometers over R or per hour. So, round off ko lang siya. So you will get 3.2 kilometers. Okay, so that is now your speed. Now what about your velocity? Okay, so for velocity, you have here equal to displacement over time. Okay, now here, mag-matter na si direction. So let's say your direction for 7 kilometers is going east, so that's going to be positive x. Okay, if you have here your Cartesian plane, this is x, this is y, or this is north, east, okay, west, and your south. So dito is positive, dito negative, dito positive, dito negative. So since we are going to the east, your sign for 7 is positive. And then the man went going to the west, or the man went 2.5 kilometers due west. You have now minus or plus negative 2.5 kilometers. Okay, and then you divide it. You still add your time. Okay, since it's the whole hour or kung gaano siya katagal nag-walk, okay, sa whole journey niya. And then you will get now, that's 7 minus 2.5 or 7 plus negative 2.5, you will get 4.5 kilometers over 3 hours or 3 hours. And then you divide, you will get 1.5 kilometer per hour. So that is positive. So for the next problem, we have here, John drove 120 kilometers south at 60 kilometers per hour and then 150 kilometers east at 50 kilometers per hour determine the average speed and the magnitude of the average velocity for his whole journey. So in this case, you are going first draw the problem. Okay, so that's going south. This is 120 kilometers. And then he then went east with 150 kilometers. So this is, sorry. Okay, and then this is 150 kilometers. So you can observe here na except kay distance, given din si speed. Okay? Now, we don't have the time. Okay? So, kailangan natin si time in order for us to solve your average speed and then your average velocity. Okay? So, first, we are going to solve for time doon sa 120 kilometers or doon sa first na journey ni John. Okay? So, we have here speed is equal to, I'm sorry, this is speed is equal to distance over time. Okay? Now, to solve for time, so i-transpose lang ninyo si time doon sa kabila. So, si B, dito na yan siya sa baba. So, T is equal to distance over V. Okay? Now, your distance is 120 divided by 60 km per hour. Okay, so you will now have the time it took for this journey is equivalent to 2 hours. Okay, so 120 divided by 60, you will get 2, and then makancel out si km, you will be left with r. So yun na yung unit natin for your time. Okay, now what about for the second vector? Okay, you do the same process. That's t equal to d over v, your distance 150 km divided by 50 km per hour. Okay, so your time for this vector is equivalent now to 3 hours. Okay, now you have now your time. Okay, so we can now solve your speed. So for your speed or your average speed, okay, let's say this is for speed. Okay, so that's V equal to distance over time. Okay, so you just add your distance, that's 120 plus 150 km. Okay, and then you divide it by your time, yung kinuha natin na time dito. So you have 2 hours plus 3 hours. Okay, and then this one is equivalent to 270 kilometers divided by 5 hours. Okay, so if you divide this one, you will get 270 divided by 5, you will get 54 kilometers per hour. Okay, so this is now your speed. Okay. Now what about your magnitude for velocity? Okay. Now since we are looking only for the magnitude of the velocity, it is not necessary to determine the direction. So in this case, we go back to our illustration, this one. So that's initial and then going to your final position. That's your displacement. So in this case, ito na si displacement natin. Okay? So if you can remember, this is the same with our resultant vector. So the same lang din yung process niya in getting our displacement doon sa previous lesson natin. You will just use your Pythagorean theorem. Okay? So here you have your R or your magnitude for R. Since magnitude lang siya, hindi ko siya lalagyan ng arrows sa itaas. Okay? And then you have now 120 squared plus 150 squared. Okay? And then you get the square root. So you will get, so this is 120 squared plus 150 squared. Then square root, you will get 192.09. Or let's say 192.1 kilometers. Okay. Now this is the magnitude for your displacement. Okay, displacement pa lang ninyo ito. Or your S. I'm sorry, S lang. Walang arrow sa itaas. This is just a magnitude. Wala siyang direction, so walang arrow sa itaas yung letter natin. Okay. Now, for your velocity, that's V is equivalent to S over T. Okay, now since we are only looking for the magnitude, we can write this as Vs over T. Okay, without direction. Okay, magnitude lang siya. So you substitute 192.1 kilometers divided by your time. That's 3 plus 2, 5 hours. Okay, now 192.1 divided by 5, you will have 38.42 kilometer per hour. Okay, so this is now your velocity. Tapos kanina, si speed natin is 54. And then the velocity is 38.42. So you can observe here na magkaiba si speed and velocity kapag ang illustration natin is not going to the same direction. Okay? So here you just apply your Pythagorean theorem. Now if you want to look for the direction, you can still use your SOHCAHTOA or your inverse tan to get the angle. Tapos yung angle na yun is enough to represent your direction. Okay, now for the next example, we have here, for number 4, if I can walk at an average speed of 5 miles per hour, how many miles can I walk in 2 hours? So here you are just going to look for the distance. Okay, if the speed is given with the following formula, d over t, ang given sa problem, you have your speed, 5 miles per hour, and then you have your time, which is 2 hours. Okay? Now here, si D, hindi siya given. So we are going to look for your distance. Now in this case, you transpose your formula. So paano siya i-transpose? You just multiply both sides by time. Okay? Para ma-cancel si time dito. And then you will be left with the distance. So distance is equivalent to your time times your velocity. Okay? So this is 2 hours times 5 miles per hour. Okay? So in this case, you have 10 miles. Okay. Anong nangyari kay R? Si R is maka-cancel out. Okay. So your distance for this problem is equivalent to 10 miles. Okay. Now what about for number 5? A dog runs at a speed of 9 kilometers per hour. How long would it take for a dog to run 15 kilometers? So in this case naman, yung hahanapin natin is si time. Okay? Your speed is equivalent to distance over time. Given tayo ng speed, speed is v. Given tayo ng speed which is 9 kilometer per hour, and then your distance is 15 kilometers. Okay, so in this case, we are going to look for your time. Okay. Now, to look for your time, again, you multiply both sides by time. Okay, para makancel si time dito, you will be left with T times B over D. So, dapat si T lang matira dito na side. So, you divide both sides by by V. Or you multiply both sides by 1 over V. So, makancel si V. Okay, and then you will be left with T is equal to B over D. Okay, or distance over your speed. Now, substitute the values. You have 15 kilometers divided by 9 kilometers per hour. Okay, so 15 divided by 9, you will get 1.67 hours. Okay, so dito si km is ma-cancel out. You will be left with 1 over h. So that is just equivalent to h, your r. So ito na si time. Okay, so how long would it took for a dog to run 15 kilometers? It's equivalent to 1.67 hours. So for the final example, we have here a car has traveled a distance of 30 meters in 10 seconds from point A to point B. Now, what is the average speed of the car? So in this case, for the average speed, you just use your formula. That's V equal to D over T. So your distance is 30 meters divided by 10 seconds. Okay, so you will get 3 meter per second. So yan na si speed natin, or the average speed. Now what about for the second question we have here? If the displacement of the car is 20 meters north, what is the car's average velocity? So in this case, the displacement is already given, that is 20 meters north. Okay, so your velocity is equivalent to your displacement over time. This is just your 20 meters north divided by the time it took for the car, that's 10 seconds. Okay, so you divide, you will get 2 meter per second and due north. So this is now your velocity. Okay. So that would be all for today. For the next meeting, or for our next meeting, I will present to you this example. Okay, so on how to solve this example. You can also look for other examples over the internet. Okay, so the more examples, the merrier. The more examples that you have, the more you can understand how to solve problems involving speed and velocity. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. God bless and excel at all.